Hi, this is Kerry with Learn Davinci Resolve, and today Blackmagic announced Davinci Resolve 16. This is a huge update that is just packed full of features, a completely new cut page, some object removal tools, and a bunch of other cool stuff. It's way more than I can cover in one video, so this will be part one of a series of videos on what's new in Davinci Resolve 16. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Okay, so as I said, there is a ton of new features in Davinci Resolve. I'll scroll a little list here so you can see some of them, or all of them that are listed currently. Now, with previous announcements like this at NAB, we would get a public beta, which we got today, and over the course of several months, new features will be added. So what we're seeing today is a snapshot of where it's at right now, and I'm sure there will be additional new features added by the time it's released, and some of the things that are in today will be refined as we move forward into a final release several months from now. But if you want to play with it, you can. Now, one thing to be aware of is when you install Davinci Resolve 16, it will overwrite any previous installations, and when you run it, it's going to ask you to upgrade the database. Well, now if you upgrade that database, well, it's going to no longer be compatible with Davinci Resolve 15, so there's no going back once you do this. Now, I do have a video, and there'll be a card up above right here to show you how to install Davinci Resolve 16 Beta without killing your 15 installation. Now, it is for Mac, but the Windows stuff should work pretty similar. So if you want to have your 15 stable going, that's great, and then have your 16 beta so you can play around with the new features. There's a way of doing it. It's not officially supported by any means, but I have it working, and it works pretty fine for me on a couple different machines that I've installed on today. So let's get to some of the new features. The first one is the new cut page. I am not going to spend much time on this today because there are so many new things about it. It's designed to really increase the productivity of someone who needs to do a lot of quick edits very quick and turn it around in a short period of time. Now, this could be good for doing dailies, doing your rushes, doing vlogging. You need a quick turnaround, things like that where you need to just really get in, make your cuts, and get through with it. Right now, I'm not overly impressed with it. It's a totally different workflow. Now, maybe as I get into it more, maybe it will be the tool that I use. I don't know right now. We'll take a quick look here, and we can open up some footage, and just like anything else, I can set my in points and my out points, drag it to my timeline, and I'm just going to select a handful of clips here and drag them in to the timeline. And you can see that there's two different timelines now. So there's a top one, a bottom one, and I can move things around using this kind of a timeline. It's very similar, not very similar, but it's somewhat reminiscent of Final Cut Pro in the way some of the things work. Definitely not exact by any stretch, but it offers some really cool features, and we're going to delve into that in another video. What I want to get into is some of the other things that I'm really digging on here. First off, we're on our timeline, and let's take a look at our project settings here. And I'm on 1920 1080 and 29997. Well, I'm at 23976. My playback frame rate is 23 or 29. Well, I wanted to make this, let's see what this original footage was. So this original footage, let's bring up our data here, was 20997, but I created a 23976 timeline, and I want to change that. So I'm on my edit tab, I'll go to my timeline, and I'll say timeline settings, and here I can use custom settings and take it back to whatever I want it to be at. Now, I can't change the frame rate right here, But what's really cool is I can do a new timeline, go to my custom settings, and I can have multiple frame rate timelines in one project. Before, you had to have a different project. Once you set up a project, any new timeline would have the same frame rate and resolution. So now I can change the resolution in an existing timeline, or I can create a new timeline that has new resolution and frame rate. So this is going to be very, very big for a lot of people. Also on here, we have the ability to say how we want to change the mismatched resolution files. Scale entire image to fit, which has always been the default before. Center crop with no resizing. Scale full frame with crop. Scale image to fit, and stretch frame to all corners. What are our monitor settings at? We want to make sure we're on NTSC here in the US, and our output settings as well. So very cool to be able to change resolutions and frame rates within a specific project. So that's huge. Another new feature, which I think a lot of people are going to like, is called the adjustment clip. This is kind of like adding an adjustment layer in other types of tools. So let's take a look. I'm going to go to my toolbox here, go to Effects, add an adjustment clip, and I can spread this across all these different ones. And I can add different effects to it. So let's go to, let me close my media pool here. Go to my effects library, go to Open Effects, and let's say I want to add a lens flare. Why not? So I have a lens flare that can go across all my different clips. I can go to my color page, and I have the adjustment clip installed. And maybe I want to make some color changes to it and give it kind of an overall look and feel. And go back to my edit page, and I have that. So that's just one simple example of something that you can do with an adjustment clip. When instead of going in and to the color page and creating a look that you're putting on multiple things, if you need to do some quick things, you can do it in the edit page. So I think that's very cool. Now, if you've got some footage that needs to be stabilized, in the past, we had to go to the color page to do the stabilization. Now, we can do that on the edit page. So I can take this piece of footage here, click on it, and go here to stabilization. Select stabilize. It'll analyze it and then do the stabilization. Same as doing it on the color page, but we're doing it on the edit page. Now, why is this that interesting? Well, if we understand the workflow in Davinci Resolve, things go from the edit page to Fusion to color. Well, if we want to do stabilization, well, we couldn't do it in color if we have any Fusion effects. We had to do that stabilization in Fusion. But what if we wanted to minimize some resources going into Fusion and we want to do that stabilization first? Well, we can do that on the edit page before going into Fusion. So I think this is going to be a kind of an interesting way of doing things. There's a few things we still don't know about exactly how that workflow works, and if it's really going to work well this way. But the stabilization has always been pretty good in Davinci Resolve, and it just keeps getting better. So I expect this is going to be a good way for some people to be able to do it without even having to bother to go to the color page if everything else they've already done is ready to go. Okay, I'm going to turn that stabilization off. And I'm going to open up retiming. Now, there's some new motion estimation tools here in how it does the retime process. And supposedly this is supposed to be a lot better than the way we would just change the speed of things and just let it do its thing. Now we have standard faster, standard better, enhanced faster, enhanced better, and speed warp. The speed warp motion estimation is powered by the new Davinci Resolve neural engine. Now, you're going to hear that phrase quite a few times in some of the new features. It's their AI that is supposed to make things a lot better. So let's go ahead and try some stuff on this particular clip. I'll go to my retiming, I'll add a speed point, go over here, we'll add a speed point, and I'll crunch these together here, and we'll go ahead and play through this. The thing about the new using speed warp is it really bogs down my machine. And this is a 5K iMac, and it's just not handling it. So I do expect there's going to be some optimizations down the road. So in the meantime, I'm going to go to playback, go to render cache, select smart, and see if it thinks that, yep, it does think that this clip needs to be rendered. So we're going to let it do its thing here. I'll zoom out so we can see some progress. Well, didn't finish showing you the speed control there because it just kind of hung everything. It was working and it was rendering it, but it looked like it was probably going to take a while. So something, again, this is beta. I may be able to try it again and have it work. I may just have to wait for some optimizations, but it's just one of those things having to deal with a beta. So it's supposed to be much better, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. So let's do something else here. Another favorite of mine is some of the speed improvements with the Davinci or the Fusion titles. So I'm going to go over here to titles. I'm going to grab, let's see, 3D title in a box, and hit play. And look at that. It was actually able to pretty much play that and at least preview it. And the rendering time is much, much faster. So a lot of speed improvement when it came to the Fusion stuff. Whether you're in the Fusion tab doing some work, or whether you're using some Fusion effects like the titles on the edit page, the Fusion stuff has been dramatically increased in speed, at least from the things that I've been trying to do. I mean, already this title is rendered. This normally would have taken a while, and it works really well. So being able to preview those titles, I think, is really, really big. So let's take a look at something else here. So some other improvements in Fusion are much better performance on the camera tracker and the planar tracker, and I do use those quite a bit, so I'm looking forward to seeing how much better those particular tools are. I'm not going to demo them. I'll wait till I can actually play around with them and do some comparisons, and we'll take a look at that. In the color page, the scopes are now GPU enhanced, GPU powered. So when we're looking at some real-time footage, we're seeing much better accuracy and real-time performance on these scopes than we had before. So this will definitely help with the grading and editing process to make sure that things are looking the way they're supposed to. Now there's also a handful of new Resolve effects. I'm going to look at my screen here and read them here. There's the new analog damage, pencil sketch, chromatic aberration, chromatic adaptation, vignette, invert color, and a new Resolve effects drop shadow. Geez, about time to just be able to drop in a node to do drop shadows. It's a long time coming. So that's a very simple one. I'm glad that's in there. And the last one we're going to talk about today is going to be the object removal tool. Now I'm going to show you some footage from Blackmagic that they used. I just don't have any footage that really works well with the tool right now. If you're trying to track something that goes off screen, onto screen, and then off screen, I'm having some issues getting that to work right. But something that stays on the screen the whole time, it's going to be much easier to track and much easier to remove. So here's an example of a runner, and it looks flawless to me. A couple of the tests I've done, I just didn't have good quality footage that is going to take advantage of this. The question is this as good or better than After Effects content aware fill that they recently announced? I don't know. It remains to be seen how good it's going to work, how good the one in After Effects works. Adobe certainly has content aware fill, under their belt for a long time. So the examples I've seen, some have worked pretty well, some of them not so well. And I think that's what we're going to see in the object removal tool in Resolve right now. Some things are going to work flawlessly, some things not so much. And it's going to be a learning process for us to figure out what settings are going to make the most sense and that are going to work best for a given situation. And not every clip is going to work well with either one of the tools. But as soon as I can, I'll try and do a comparison between After Effects Content Aware Fill and the Resolve Object Removal tool. So this video is long enough. I'll let you go, and later on I'll do another video on some of the other new features. Like I said, there's a ton of new stuff, and we just got our hands on the public beta, so a lot of us are still learning what the different features are and how to use them. So stay tuned for more what's new in Davinci Resolve 16 coming up over the next few days and weeks as more and more features come out and we learn how to use them. There's no manual yet on some of them, so trying to figure them out has been a little difficult, and there's some bugs. It's a beta. We expect to have some bugs. So stay tuned for more. If you like this video, be sure and hit like. If you don't like it, hit the dislike. It's okay with me, but I'd appreciate if you tell me what you didn't like so I can make sure to improve my videos moving forward. Hit subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notified every time I put out a new video, because you don't want to miss any of the upcoming stuff on what's new in Davinci Resolve 16. So thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Kerry with Learn Davinci Resolve. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.